Oh my god. Oh. Hey there guys, I'm Lord here, and I'm back with another random movie review. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2005 blockbuster Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. A contemporary retelling of H.G. Wells' classic, this sci-fi thriller reveals the extraordinary battle for the future of mankind through the eyes of one American family. Fleeing from an extraterrestrial army of killer tripods that annihilate everything in their path, Ray Ferrier races to keep his family safe.
Rated PG-13.
Okay, I think we should be safe down here for now. And scene. War of the Worlds has been a literary and film staple for over 128 years. The original novel, written by H.G. Wells, was published in 1898. Orson Welles, no relation, famously made a radio drama play in 1938 that terrorized the nation. Then came the Technicolor Oscar-winning film in 1953. And now this 2005 blockbuster hit. I admit, I haven't read the novel or seen any of the adaptations of this story before this. Of course I know all about it because it is a landmark science fiction story. This iteration is from acclaimed director Steven Spielberg. It stars Tom Cruise as Ray Ferrier, a crane operator. Ray is a divorced father of two, and it's obvious that he isn't their main caregiver. I don't doubt that he loves his children, but he doesn't put much effort into showing it. This was an interesting role to see Tom in. I think he did a good job at capturing that midlife crisis dad personality. Of course, there's plenty of the familiar action scenes for him, but it's the quieter, more emotional parts where he really shines for me. Dakota Fanning plays his young daughter, Rachel Ferrier. She's not your typical kid. She's a bit too smart for her own good, and she also has anxiety panic episodes. I read a lot of reviews that complain that she was just too annoying, but isn't that the point? She's a literal child with her world being destroyed all around her. I think that warrants some screaming and crying. Yes, some of those screams were ear-piercing, but I found Dakota to be more endearing. I think she represents how most people would react to this invasion. Ray's other child is Robbie Ferrier, played by Justin Chatwin. He's a typical annoyed teen who resents his father. He bucks Ray's authority at any chance he can. I thought Justin was okay in the beginning, but as the movie went on, I started to find him a bit annoying. The whole angsty teen bit kept going, even when faced with destruction. Like, can you not be emo for just a second? And then halfway through the movie, he wants to join the military. Huh? He goes from fighting the authority of his father to wanting to be controlled by the military. He all of a sudden has this desire to help others. It felt like a character 180, but I didn't mind when his character disappeared for a while. Then there's Tim Robbins as Harlan Ogilvy. He helps Ray and Rachel. He's also a conspiracy lunatic who thinks that the aliens can be beaten by sheer determination. His character felt a bit random, but he did help the story move forward. Miranda Otto plays Mary Ann, Ray's ex-wife. She's barely in the film, I just happen to recognize her. It's the same for Lisa Ann Walter, who appears for 2 minutes. There was a fun cameo, though, that I didn't recognize at first. Gene Barry and Ann Robinson appear as the kids' grandparents. These two were actually the stars of the 1953 film version of War of the Worlds. Going into this movie, I was expecting an action-packed Tom Cruise vehicle film. And while there is plenty of action, there's plenty of slower moments too. Relationships, parenthood, and morality are all explored. There's also quite a bit of darker emotional notes. Spielberg noted that this film was his reflections on the September 11th terrorist attacks. After the initial attack on Ray's neighborhood, he is covered in a dusty powder, much like the people in the streets of New York City on that day. His immediate shock was apparent. The kids kept asking him if it was a terrorists again. I thought this was a bit surprising considering the terrorist attacks were only 4 years prior to this film, and people tend to find references to the attacks to be a bit offensive, especially so soon. Ray has to make tons of emotional decisions throughout the film as well. Every step along the way is laced with morality plays. I was surprised with how dark some of these scenes got. Tom Cruise's acting really grounded these moments. Spielberg is known for creating memorable spectacles, both on the micro and the macro scale. The widespread destruction was felt immediately. I think what made it feel more powerful was the fact that it was a local neighborhood being destroyed. We don't see the usual big city landmarks being destroyed. Instead, we take a tour through the New England countryside, which shows how thorough the aliens are. There's something about seeing a neighborhood that looks like mine being wiped out that hits a little bit different. It shows that no one is safe. anywhere. Even watching this movie 21 years after release on a standard DVD, the visuals were impressive. I hope that it comes back to theaters sometime because that would be a spectacle. The film employs both practical and CGI effects, which I personally think is the best mixture. For example, there's a scene of a crashed commercial jet in an upscale neighborhood. The plane body is the actual body of a decommissioned plane. This allows characters to interact with it in real time, even if they're just looking at it. It's much easier to look shocked at a real object than it is to a green screen. I found the tripod ship designs well done. They gave both a retro and a futuristic vibe. They were realistic enough to be believable, but foreign enough to be scary. The design of the actual aliens was interesting too. Again, they looked like the kind of creatures that would be driving these tripods. Their movements were smooth and stealthy, showing how easily they could catch you if you were running away. For a film shot, edited, and basically finished within 10 months, this all felt very planned out. I mentioned earlier that the film focuses more on rural destruction as opposed to city destruction. This is because the film follows Ray's point of view the entire time. Everything is based on where he is. So we don't see any scientists because he doesn't meet any. Any military troops that we see is because they are around Ray. This perspective style was part of the cinematography. Often the shots would be from Ray's position, whether through his eyes or over his shoulder. This emphasizes that local, personal feeling. There was this one scene of the family driving on the highway, weaving in and out of broken down cars and people. We start with a conversation between the family, with the camera slowly panning across them. Then the camera pulls out of the driver's side window and up into the air. We see the van maneuvering through the obstacles, all while the conversation continues. The camera then finishes its flight and pulls back into the passenger side window. We watch more of the same conversation and then the camera pulls through the windshield back into the air. This is all shown as one single take. The camera's fluid movements don't ever cut until the scene is over. Obviously this was achieved with CGI and matting, but the result is a great way to show this action. I thought this was a good representation of how Ray is in the car having this conversation with his kids, but his mind is also outside the car making sure he doesn't run into anything. There was another one of these no-cut type of sequences later on in the film in a basement. I just think they're really neat. It's like an audience assessment of the location. But this van that they're driving is the source of some of my more major complaints. When the aliens first arrived, it is explained that an EMP surge fried all the electronics. All cars, TVs, cell phones, everything stopped working. The van's starter was destroyed, but the mechanic replaced the starter solenoid and it comes roaring to life. While it's possible that the surge only hurt the one part, it doesn't seem really likely. The EMP damage is inconsistent throughout the film, and I don't mean just because it happens in waves. There's a character using a camcorder shortly after the first blast, too. While it makes for a cool visual shot, it doesn't make any sense. The same goes for the van's apparently indestructible windows. The van was around during the aforementioned plane crash. I mean, right at the site of the explosion. The neighborhood is leveled, homes are splintered apart, but the van is completely undamaged. It drives like a dream. And then there's the convenient path in the wreckage for it to drive along. I know that Spielberg has said in the past that if there's something he really wants to do in his movie, he'll do it, even if it defies logic. Most times, these are okay. They aren't things that most people will notice. But there are a few too many obvious times where this happens in War of the Worlds. Aside from the all-powerful minivan, there were times where Ray and family would just stand and take in all the carnage. Flames and debris flying at them, but they don't move. I was screaming, "Run!" at my TV far too often. I get that this makes for a great visual, but it also defies the character's development. Ray has a goal to get his kids to safety, and standing around in the middle of a bunch of explosions doesn't really say that. The film boasts a score from legendary composer John Williams. The music helps those nearly 2 hours of destruction just melt on by, though it didn't distract me from the lack of plot exploration. Since the movie focuses on the Ferrier family, we never get to learn a lot about the aliens. Ray and family aren't out investigating X-Files style, they're trying to survive. We never officially learn why the aliens came to Earth. We don't learn about their technology, anatomy, or anything. There is enough information to infer a general understanding, though. But you know me, I want something more. The same goes for the ending. The characters in the film have no clue how the aliens are defeated. Instead, the narrator, who is Morgan Freeman, tells the audience. It felt like the movie ran out of steam and time and instead said, "Here's Morgan Freeman, credits." In the end, I actually had a great time with War of the Worlds. It's a blockbuster spectacle that packs some emotional jabs. It's no wonder that it was one of the highest grossing films of that year, but it does suffer from some continuity and narrative issues. And that is why I am giving the 2005 film War of the Worlds the invasive score of 7.5 out of 10. If I would have seen this when it released, I would have been floored. But my older critical eyes weren't as impressed. I think we need to get going. But before we do, don't forget to leave a comment down here in the basement to tell me what you thought about War of the Worlds. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more blockbuster content just like this. Alright, I'll see you out there.